I was a high school teacher. In those days of the cultural thing is after you left A level, you started teaching before university. You started teaching the lower classes. So at least I can argue that I've been a teacher and the founder of the Christian Union in that particular school. But that's now more than 50 years ago. So you can accept me as knowing something about schooling because I was a teacher for only half a year. Number two, let me say that about 40 years ago, I was asked by some people in my rural area in Nyandarua whether I can help them. The government had just allocated a certain plot of land to a school, and we asked whether we can help start the school. So I became the founding chairman of Mount Kinangop Girls Secondary School, which is now an old, well-known school in Nyandarua. But we started it from scratch. We were given an open ground, just from here to here is your land. So every time I now go back, I remember the original things about thinking about the planning and the first few buildings. Now it has many institutions. Again, as a founding chairman of the board of governors of that school, I can be associated with the schools. But in addition to that, for the last more than 50 years, I've been involved in speaking to the Christian unions in high school. I spoke in Chogoria not too many years ago in the National Convention of KSCF, where all high school students had come from all over the country. There were maybe 3,000 or 4,000 students, and that I've been doing. Between 1983 and 1986, I was the national chairman of KSF. I was a council for quite a number of years, but now I'm currently the chairman of something they call KSF Elders, which you are not allowed to join unless you are over 65 years. They don't call you old until they are sure you have retired from everywhere else. Basically, these are people not able to run around in school, but they still can pray for the school ministry and can still be available. And I'm the current chairman of the KSF Elders Fellowship. I hope those three things qualifies me to talk to you. Is that okay? As a school. However, my life, I did a business administration course for the first degree. I also did a leadership degree for the second degree. And I spent my first years, I left university, of course, now in 1970s. And my first job was in a bank, which I did for some time. Then I joined an oil industry. I joined Shell, and was in Shell right from a junior executive right to the top leadership. So I'm involved in that. So when I retired many years ago, in our time, I'm in my 70s, and in our time we were retiring in our 50s. So I retired a long time ago. I registered a consultancy firm, Taruma Consultants, which is what I now use to consult. To consult simply means to give you advice and charge you for it. And so I thought with all the training that Shell gave me, both in the country and out of the country, instead of going to grow coffee, it may be easier to continue along the line. And so that's what I've been doing for the last many years since I retired, helping organizations to improve to improve performance. I'm a strategic consultant in the areas of performance management. So when I was given the topic I was given, it's in line with things I've discussed in many places. And I thought it's very important. So I have three objectives in my topic. I was given self-management, but I have three objectives in that topic, and I don't have a lot of time to deal with it. Number one, I'm hoping that I'll convince you that it's important for you to have a personal development plan. I don't think I have enough time to train you for it, but I've written a book. The book is called Discovering Your Life's Purpose. My books are sold by Scripture Union, so you have in Nairobi, or if somebody is visiting Nairobi, you can ask them to get. And if you're interested in the digital ones, you can check me up in Amazon, John Nganga, Discovering Your Life's Purpose. I've written another one on work ethics. Still I'll be quoting from that one also. It's called A Leader's Work Ethics. And again, you can pick that one, and it can be of help. Then and the third one that is related with this is, I've written a book called The Leader's Source of Influence. What gives you the power to influence others? And all of them are aiming at helping yourself to manage yourself in a way that allows you to realize your full potential. So my first objective is to assist you to draw for yourself, with God's help, a personal development plan. Number two, I'm hoping that out of this discussion, you learn to work well with one another. Because you see, if you don't know how to work well with others, you can't go very far. Some people are anointed to pull you down. They have a PhD. Pull him down. So unless you learn how to relate with others, they will keep getting a PhD. Pull her down. And I'm hoping in the short time I have available, I'll say a few things that help you to learn that you can actually go forwards irrespective of who is trying to pull you down. So I'm hoping on that issue of how to relate well with others, which is part of self-management. Thirdly, I'm hoping very sincerely that you become self-motivated, where you are not like a wheelbarrow. You know, I'm sure many of you have come from the farms. In Nairobi, you have to be careful giving this type of examples. But on the farm, one of the most important assets in our farm is a wheelbarrow. Would you agree with me? Yeah, because you see, many of us can't carry a whole gunia of coffee. But if somebody helps us to put it in a wheelbarrow, we'll take it to the coffee factory. Am I right? Wheelbarrows are very important. But let me tell you the wrong thing about wheelbarrow. If somebody calls you and you leave the bag with the wheelbarrow, when you come 3 years later, it will still be there. Some people are wheelbarrows. They move as long as they are carried. Where you leave them, 3 years later you find them, because they have no self-motivation. So I'm hoping on those 3 issues that I'll be able to cover them. Let me start by quoting Ecclesiastes chapter 9, verse 11. The race is not to the swift, or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favor to the learned, but time and chance happens to them all. 3 points out of this verse. Number 1, time and chance will happen to all of us. What is time? I'm in my 70s, we all will live for some years. So you have time, and every one of us has 24 hours, am I right? Even if you are rich, you still have only 24 hours. So the Bible wants you to know, time and chance are available to you. What makes the difference is what you do with the time and chance. Many people have, when I say chance, it's called opportunity. Many people have opportunity, but they misuse the opportunity. And they end up with a different result. Because they are the same time, the same chance, but how they use them matters. So in this discussion, why self-management is important is because all of us have time and chance. So what will happen to us does not depend on those assets. Those are available to all of us. It's what you do with it. Number 2, that unfortunately, speed, here he starts by talking about the race is not for the swift. You may be fast. God has given you the gift and ability to go fast. But you might discover, and I'm sure if you have a grandfather like mine, you remember the tales where the rabbit and the tortoise would race, and the tortoise would win. You have some stories.
Yes.
But a lot of we are the grandfathers. We are not telling stories the way our grandfathers told them. So, but we need to continue telling the stories. Because the whole idea was to tell the child as you are growing up, you can be swift. But the tortoise, wiser than you, will arrive before you. So self-management is critical. Because there's a self-management of the tortoise, it has no speed, but it's wise. It manages itself properly. It ends up arriving before the one that is swift. So you need to ask yourself, might the problem with you be not lack of speed, but lack of wisdom? Why are you not progressing like so and so is progressing? The other thing he talked about is the battle is not to the strong. In other words, you are heavyweight. If you give me a blow, you just change my dental formula. But unfortunately, the battle does not belong to the strong. I'm sure in the Bible you have the story of that. A small boy called David, and a strong man called, who killed the other? Who was the killer? David. Again, we are still on this topic, self-management. That the way David managed himself made him kill the strong. By the way, initially when I was hearing those stories, I didn't know it's in the Bible so clearly. That part of your problem is simply this. You are strong but not wise. Like Samson Karao. I don't know whether you know, that's what we used to say in Kikuyu when we are being example. There's a guy called Samson, you know him? He could lift a whole pillar of a whole superstructure. That's how he died, isn't it? Do you know the story of Samson? Yes. He was strong, but the battle was not to the strong. There was a small girl called Delilah. You know, a small girl who has no power. But she ended up making him lose his eyes. And there are many people here. And I'm now talking about my age mates. I can see most of you are not in your 70s. After all, you will not be employed if you are in my age. Am I right? Yeah. So you are younger. But you see a man in his 70s being moved around by a small girl. His daughter is older than this Kagao. But the Kagao masses his career, his political career is ended all because of a small girl. And if you think it's an African problem, go to America and meet somebody called Clinton. You know Clinton? What was the girl called? Monica Lewinsky, was it? Yeah, Lewinsky or whatever. And she was not even a working girl. She was straight from the university, she was an intern. And she almost got, in fact, she was almost impeached because of a small girl. Am I creating for you to understand why this topic is important? That how you manage yourself, however strong you are, is what will make the day, not your strength. He even says, not as food come to the wise, to the brilliant or favor, or to the learned, but time and chance happens to all. Anyway, I don't spend all my time in the introduction, but I wanted to use the verse to see what the scripture is saying. That how you manage yourself matters more than the resources God has given you. You may be a beautiful girl, and every boy is running for you, only to spend 2 hours and realize they can't stand you. Not because you are smelling, but because of your words. Because of your words. So within no time, he said, in fact, some guys ask, surely, can't you see me? How can you go for such an ugly person? Yeah, the ugly person at least talks to me. You are always proud about your beauty. And there are many beautiful women who finally have to grab any man who has a trouser. Because all the men disappeared. They are beautiful. That's not, they can win a beauty contest. But they are lacking wisdom in how to relate with others. And they end up to be in trouble. Anyway, our discussion is not on beauty. Self-leadership is not self-management. And I would like to actually emphasize my discussion today will not be as much in self-management and in self-leadership. Self-management, we are referring to command and control perspective. Your ability to control. A manager controls and manages. And we're talking about you managing yourself, forcing yourself. Command and control perspective of self and focusing on stubbornly directing through willpower. That's what self-management is. And I'll come to it a little later, disciplining yourself. And I'm saying you are far much better leading yourself rather than managing yourself. And again, I don't have enough time to deal with this topic. The difference between a manager and a leader is a whole subject we need to talk about. And some of you are supervisors. Am I right? Yeah, so you need to understand there's a difference between a manager and a leader. A manager, one thing about a manager manages people. A leader leads the people. Managing means controlling them. Managing means disciplining them. Management means allocating resources. Leadership is different. And leadership is much harder than management. That's why most of us are not leaders. We are managers. Because when you become a leader, you have taken away power from yourself to your followers. The word following means somebody choosing to come behind you. Am I communicating? So if I'm a leader, nobody will come unless they choose to come. Are you getting the point? Yeah. So in a relationship between a leader and a follower, power is with the follower, not with the leader. Because he leads, then others choose to follow or not. But management is different. A person who relates to the manager is not called a follower. He's called a subordinate. And between the relationship between a subordinate and a manager, power is with the manager. Am I communicating? But again, I'm being tempted to go into that topic. That's not my topic today. But if you are a manager, you use sheer force to get things done. If you're a leader, your people do it willingly. Because they are following you willingly. It's only becoming a leader, like I told you, is more difficult. 3 ingredients, so those are not my topic today, that a leader requires. Number 1 is trust. Nobody can follow you to a place that they have never been. Nobody can follow you to a place they have never been if they fear you are likely to kill them. So the currency of leadership is trust. So the moment I doubt you, that's what our political leadership is having trouble with currently. Even when I say I want something good for you, can it be good? And you have no evidence it's not good. But because you don't trust the person, you start fighting even something good for yourself. Because you are lacking trust. Number 2, if people are going to follow you, not only will they do so because you trust them, but number 2, because they participate in their leadership. They feel, in fact, with a leader, you introduce a project, they start doing it before they understand. After some time, they no longer call it the project of the leader. They call it our project. And you have won your leadership role. The moment they stop talking about it as your project, they start calling it our project. Once it's our project, you don't need to supervise them. They are doing it as my own thing. And of course, I was a manager in Shell for many. I worked for around 30 years, and I joined Shell when I was already supervising people, and throughout my period of supervising. So I know 1 or 2 things about the difference between management and leadership. That once people feel this is our thing, they will do it without your presence. But it requires more. Remember, we have said it requires trust. Number 2, it requires people to feel that thing. They understand why they are doing it. It's for their good. It's for our good. Why are we doing it? Once they get there, they will now follow you willingly. Thirdly, when you are, not only do they need trust and a sense of participation, number 3, they want to understand they are going to benefit. Nobody wants to support the leader to achieve his ends. Are we together? They want to feel this is I'm going to benefit. And the responsibility of the leader is to show them what is innate for them. Why are we doing this? And I think that's a very important thing to understand. People, when you get them to where they are doing things for themselves, you will see a lot of things will happen to change. I'm not talking about yourself, not you leading others, but leading yourself. When you lead yourself, you must convince yourself what you are doing is for your good. Am I communicating? Yeah. Instead of managing yourself, you are willingly do it because it's for my good. You cannot self-leadership means you don't get involved in things which you don't think are good for you. Don't allow others to decide. Don't work here because your father told you. Work for 2 years, then resign. Go to where you feel I'm here because it's for my own good. There, you don't even require to be supervised because you know yourself, this is where I want to be. And it's very important that you understand that. It's my prayer that as we discuss, you start answering yourself a question. Working for this institution, do I feel it's for my good or not? Because self-leadership means you first of all convince yourself that what you are doing is not to support the principal, to support the supervisor, to support the bursar. It's for my own good. Somebody called Brand says, self-leadership is the practice of intentionally influencing your thinking. The practice of intentionally influencing your thinking, not just thinking, feelings, and then actions toward your own vision and objective. Now that you are clear about what you want to achieve and where you want to go, you always tell yourself in your thinking, in your feelings, in your actions, I'm not doing this for another, I'm doing it for myself. And that is what self-leadership is all about. But I think my introduction, I want to tell you there are about 5 things that sabotage your ability to realize your vision. You as a person have a vision, but there are 5 things that are going to sabotage that vision. If you don't have it, and remember, so far we are not talking about the school, talk about you as a person. Things that will sabotage you so that you cannot realize that vision to which you are leading yourself. You can't reach it for 5 reasons. Number 1, I call it entitlement mentality. It's a criminal thing. Entitlement. What's entitlement? To start feeling like somebody owes you. I was very happy listening to my friend telling you that all the school owes you is clean water. But I think it's important to understand you come to where you have reached a level where not except God who created you, only God owes you something. Human beings don't owe you anything. I can tell you, as long as you have the spirit of entitlement, you have a lot of trouble. So entitlement spirit is that people owe me. I'm very beautiful. How come you're not talking to other girls? Can't you see how beautiful I am? That entitlement, because you feel you are beautiful, will make you lose boyfriends. Am I communicating? Because you feel you are entitled. Let me tell you 3 things about you can tell somebody is entitled. Number 1, he never says thank you. Surely, how can I tell you thank you and I deserve it? If you don't tell me if you don't do it for me, like many African husbands are entitled. So when they come home and you give them tea, how can I say thank you for what? As a husband, I'm entitled to tea. Really? If you don't, there will be trouble. If you give, there will be no thanks. Because I am entitled. But you see, the moment I have no thanks, I make the other person see it as a duty, not as something they enjoy. And because they are doing it as a duty, they don't enjoy it. And because they don't enjoy it, there will be trouble later. Am I communicating? Yes. So many marriages suffer because the husband is entitled. Okay, I'm giving the impression, I've never been a woman, but some women are also entitled. Are entitled. You do your best. You are coming from London. At least when I used to work for Share, I used to travel quite a bit. I'm coming from London. I have come with a dress. I went all over shops looking for a dress, and I brought that dress. And I give my wife. Oh, that's all you could afford. Now, remember, she feels entitled to a dress. Therefore, she doesn't get excited about it. Because after all, if you had come without a dress, I would have been in trouble. So, now that I have brought a dress to thank you about what? You're my husband, so you brought it. Do you think next time I'll run around looking for a dress? Where did it begin? Mwenye alijiharibia. Am I communicating? The spirit of entitlement. If you have children who are entitled, please help them before they are 10. Because when they become teenagers, it's difficult to help. The right path system is teach your children when they are still toddlers. They have right to nothing. There is nothing they're entitled to except clean water. There is nothing. There is nothing they're entitled to. Let your children know very early. And it's very important. I still remember, at least now I don't, but when I was working for Shell would give me a loan to buy a car. I bought a new car. Then one of my children said, "What a color!" I said, "Are you aware this is not your car? The only person who can regulate the color is your mother. Because it's our car, isn't it? You are here and you go." And of course, they later left. But at that point, they thought it's our car. I said, no. You are passengers. Now, you need to understand the only owners is your mother and I. You need to teach your children early. They are entitled to clean water and nothing else. It's important. So it's this thing, and unfortunately, I don't think it was as bad in our youth. You, especially you who are having teenage children. Am I right? It's become a big thing. But unfortunately, age does not change. There are people in their 70s who are entitled. The moment you are entitled, you can't say thank you because you feel you have a right. Number two, the moment you are entitled, you will always be unhappy. Because there are things you're expecting people to do. They were not even aware. They were expected to do them. When they don't do them, you can't sleep at night, isn't it? Because you felt entitled. What's wrong with them? They never did. Your wife did not know that she's a tea girl. So she did not make tea. She thought you also can make your own tea. So when she doesn't make, will you have sleep that night? Who are you suffering from? Not your wife, but your own entitlement. So number one, you don't say thank you. Number two, you suffer. Because nobody can meet your entitlement. Because they are not even aware you are entitled. So a lot of them will be having trouble. Your supervisor comes in the morning, he doesn't say good morning. And the whole day you can't work. He never greeted me because you feel entitled to a greeting. But unfortunately, supervisor had just got on with his wife early in the morning. He doesn't want to talk to anybody. It has nothing to do with you. It is with the wife. Now you're adding him another problem. He thought only the wife is entitled. Now you're also entitled. Don't you see the trouble in your working place? Because once you have that spirit of entitlement, my friend, nobody can meet it. Therefore, you always be having quarrels with people. Because you won't tell them thank you, and there are certain things you're expecting. And you know that number three, most entitled people do not feel ready to serve anybody. In other words, you would have thought that because I'm entitled, I should know also you are also supposed to be. No, entitled people are full stop entitled. They feel they are God's gift to earth. So therefore, the earth must appreciate them. My friend, if your supervisor is like that, please forgive him in advance. Because there will be a lot of trouble. You are, for example, his secretary, but he will expect you to bring tea. And you're not a tea girl. But if you're a woman, how can you expect me to get tea and you are supposed to get tea for me? Now, you are not even aware yourself. You thought you are workmates. But for her, you are a woman. Am I communicating? So you need to understand that self-management means fighting entitlement. I always tell people, I don't know who came up with the idea that the place where children are born, only women can tell me, what is that place called where children are born? What do you call the room in the hospital where children are born? Delivery? Labor ward. And after labor, you go to delivery or something. Now, do you know, I think whoever came up with the idea of a delivery is called delivery. Have you delivered? It's to remind the mother that child is not her child. He was only a delivery system. The child belongs to God. But he needed a delivery system, so he picked you as a delivery system. That child belongs to God. Therefore, if there is somebody for that child to be entitled to, it is God. And when you do good to that child, you are doing it on behalf of God. Because of that, when you become my age, and your children don't even come for Christmas, I'm not entitled. They are not mine. They belong to God. But I can say, but I looked after them. No, I was not looking after them. I was serving God. Can you see I can enjoy my old age? As long as I have no entitlement. If they come, oh, thank you for coming, I'll thank them. Because I knew they did not have to come. If somebody give me 2 shillings, hiya. I don't start saying, sure, it's 2 shillings. What can I do for it? I say, I did not deserve even 0. So, to give me 2, thank you very much. But many of your parents are always comparing. My son gave me 20,000. You gave me 1,000. What's wrong with you? Because they feel entitled. Are they having a good time with their children? And their children are you. Are they having a good time? What's the problem? Entitlement. Self-management means fighting entitlement. Come to where only God you can demand things from. You can ask God, because He's the one who created you. He's the one who dropped you. Okay, through your mother, she delivered you, but your problems are not to be given to your mother. You are not entitled anything from your mother. If she does well, and if she doesn't do it, she is not answerable to you. She is answerable to the person who gave her the job. Am I communicating? You are not entitled to your father. Anything your father did, you are not entitled to them. And it can be quite a bad thing. I still remember when I was still a manager with Shell, we wanted an accountant. And I mounted the application. I was impressed by a boy who was full CPA and he was only 22 years. I said, what? Those are now 20-something years ago. I was surprised. So when he came part of the question in the interview, how did you make it? He said, every 6 months I've been passing exams. You know, you do CPA 1, 6 months. CPA 2, 6 months. Within no time, done everything. And I thought, that's wonderful. And somebody had to pay all those, because the more subject you take, the more you pay at the college. Somebody paid for you, yes. Who did? Oh, my older brother. Hey, that's a good man. Did you thank him? You know, the young man told the interviewers, thank him for what? Even my father paid for him. So, you felt, yeah. See, his school fees was paid by my mother, my father. He had to pay mine also. No, so we tried to guide him. Of course, he stuck to his gun. The brother, he does not owe any thanks to the brother. He is entitled to the school fees. Try to get him to another. Are you aware there are brothers older, but they don't help? Anyway, when he went, we could not remove any marks from his from the question of competence. But he asked, if he cannot be thankful to his brother, will he be thankful to Shell? Is there any salary he can feel motivated by? We say, let's not touch a young man. He is trouble. Did he get the job? No. Because you can never employ somebody who is entitled. He will always be on your desk. What's wrong with you? I do a lot of good work. You don't think about me. Because the boy is entitled. So I hope you understand then, self-management means coming to where you do not expect anything from anybody, you expect from God. And then you know God can use anybody and everybody. Wapende, wasipende. If you could make a donkey talk to Balaam, he can use anybody, am I right? So even if your father refuses to pay your school fees, he will pick somebody else. Because God uses your father, but your father is not the only one. He can use a donkey to pay your school fees. So the moment you get to that level, where you have no right on anybody except God, my friend, you'll be able to manage yourself better. It means you get a supervisor who doesn't like you. You don't resign your job. Why? You know you do not have entitlement from him. Number two, you are aware God is the giver. Are we together? Yes. And that employer, that supervisor, whether he likes you or not, will just see you keep progressing. He wonders, what happened? You know, we were talking to somebody the other day who was employed somewhere, and the employer did not, the boss, they knew each other outside work. So he said, no, you can never work in this organization. So when they went for the interviews, and he was in the panel, he was saying, no, we can't employ the person. Till somebody says, why don't you become employed? You know, we were talking about conflict of interest, isn't it? Why don't you say why you are unhappy with so-and-so? Again, he didn't want to own up. So therefore, once the decision was made, the person was offered the job. As he went furious. So he was telling his secretary, I'll make the terms so bad for the person, they cannot join the organization. That person knew the person I was talking to. So they looked for them and said, by the way, I hear the interviewing panel agreed to employ you. But my boss has said about his dead body. And he said the way you achieve it is to give you very bad terms so that you refuse. So I advise you, accept the low terms, work out after you are already employed. So that's how the person ended up in the place and worked in the place for around 30 years. Because the person is older, isn't it? They will leave, isn't it? So why bother? Can you see you can work with a difficult boss when you understand that, isn't it? But the spirit of entitlement makes you so furious, you resign before anybody. And then sometimes you are very foolish in your resignation. You are having a salary, somebody looks at you badly, say, the way you look at me, I'm not working there. You resign, you go home. We were told 1 month's salary, after it is not there, is when you know how important it is. Are we together? So here you are begging, nobody fired you. You left because you did not like your boss. Surely, even if you wanted to punish, why punish yourself? You did not punish the boss. Now you are punishing yourself. You don't resign because someone wants you to resign. You resign when God tells you to, because by the time you leave, he has somewhere else. But if pride and entitlement is what making you leave the job, he will allow you also to have a few months without a salary. So he works on your entitlement, isn't it? So it's important to ask yourself, is that something you are suffering from? Is your marriage suffering because of the spirit of entitlement? Feeling I married him, I'm beautiful. Does he know how lucky he is to have married me? There are so many boys after me, but you didn't marry them. This one you married. Am I communicating? So if you keep talking about that, would you have a good marriage? No. So remove the spirit of entitlement. I agree, you don't have to work in this school. You can work elsewhere. But you're not elsewhere, you are here. So you need to ask yourself. Number 2 problem is when you find someone else to blame, you can never reach your potential, you can never reach to where you want to go. When you find somebody to blame. Because you see, the moment you find somebody to blame, you can't work on your problem. It's not my problem, it's my boss. It's not my problem, it's my wife. It's not my problem, it's my children. It's not my problem, it is the moment you find somebody else to blame. I've written a book called The Secret of Contentment. And I say the moment you find somebody to blame for your problems, there are 2 possibilities. You hate them and finally murder them. So you end up in committee. Are we together? So you need to come to where? For hold yourself accountable for everything that goes wrong in your life. Don't hold somebody else accountable. Hold yourself. That does not mean there are people who are not wrong. That does not mean there are not people doing wrong things to you. But even then, how you respond matters. We have no time to deal with the subject that when we talk about emotional intelligence. But emotional intelligence is a very important subject. People normally talk about the other IQ, but let's talk about EI, emotional intelligence. What's emotional intelligence? Is the ability of reading people's emotions. That way, when they talk to us, we are able to discount what they are saying on basis of their emotions. Someone just looks at me and says, "You dog." Now, surely, you know he's not talking. It is emotions talking, isn't it? Because surely, I have 2 legs. Dogs normally have 4. So for him to see only 2, he's going blind. Now, you need to be sympathizing with him rather than getting annoyed with the person who is sick. But that only happens when you have emotional intelligence. Ability to see, he's not the one talking. It is his emotions. Emotional intelligence is the ability to read people's emotions and therefore act yourself not on the basis of their emotions, but on what is behind, rather on the real content rather than emotions. Number 2, it helps you not to act in kind, because the person is emotional. Have you ever seen the signboard people like putting on their walls written, "Never argue with a fool"? People will not tell the difference. Because the moment you act as emotional as the other person, you also say something that doesn't make sense. Am I right? So here we are saying the moment you find somebody to blame, it will make you annoyed, emotional, you are likely to act and later regret. Many marriages, people say things. 20 years, I've been married for more than 45 years. Then you are reminded, do you remember that years ago? Because what you said was so hurting that years later is still interfering with your marriage. Are we together? And you didn't mean it. You just out of emotions. So emotional intelligence is something you can study the subject. There's a lot of literature in the internet. It's the ability to read people's emotions and act yourself, not with the same emotion, but with that understanding. But number 2, emotional intelligence is the ability to understand your own emotions and then control them. If you feel you are getting angry and the anger is increasing, just say, "Excuse me, I have to run to the toilet." Because you actually need to go to the toilet. By the time you come back, your emotions have gone down. And the problem now is not the other person. Once you have somebody to blame, once you are annoyed by somebody, my friend, you are likely to say something that will hurt you. Many people have lost their jobs because they talked emotionally. You call yourself a boss, you're still a woman, you're still a brother. Now, obviously, these days, they have gadgets that record. By the time that is taken to a disciplinary committee, say, "No, it was not me," but the voice is yours. But you acted out of emotions. So you need to come to where you feel like, "I agree, this person has called me something. I can't control his mouth, but I can control my actions." People think that you can blame somebody. What you do with your emotions is your personal responsibility. Never blame somebody else. "He made me angry." There is nobody who can make you angry on earth. You choose to be angry. Ever. Nobody can make you angry. It is what they said, you chose to react to it with anger. So when you start taking responsibility for your actions, can you see you start controlling them? But as long as he is the one who annoyed me. Hot God, my wife and I, at least for the last 20 years, we've not been marriage counseling. And you just listen to people and realize once you hold, number 1, you have entitlement, number 1, you think the other person will be to blame. And because you are not even allowing, especially if you're a woman, you talk at a speed. The man is speaking 50 words and you're speaking 100 per minute. Now, so in the end, you feel like you are right. Until somebody comes for counseling, it gives each equal airtime. And the wife says, "I never heard you say that. How could you have heard? You are speaking 100 words per minute." You need to come to where you are able to control emotions, allow him to talk. Are we together? Yes. And you might hear something you were not hearing before. And I'm not suggesting he's right. I'm only saying control yourself. See, you are the better, isn't it? Not that you are blaming, you are the better. How can you be the better and yet you are out of control yourself? I can tell you, the moment you hold yourself accountable for your actions and reactions, your life will be the better. You will reach places you will never have reached. People want to work with you. People want to promote you. People want to extend your contract. They feel like they can't do without you. And it's not necessarily the actual technical performance, it's work relations. Am I communicating? One of our anniversaries, we agreed with my wife, we go to a place where I've never been. So we said wherever Kenya Airways goes where we have not been. And we have never been to Maputo. Maputo is in Mozambique, and they speak Portuguese. But we thought because they are neighboring Tanzania, there will be some people speaking Tanzania. Only to arrive at the hotel, and they are all speaking a language we have no idea. They speak Portuguese, as they have many tribes, but they speak Portuguese to each other. I wondered, how do you go around here? And because they have been colonized from 14 something, the Portuguese arrived there 14 something. They have long history, older than the East African ones. But I was wondering how we will see the place. The hotel lady said, don't worry, without lady could speak English. I'll get you a driver and a tour guide who can speak English. When he came, we were surprised. He's speaking English with a very good accent. I thought he comes from a rich family where he went to international schools. He said, no, I come from a poor family. So how did you come to speak English like this? He said he realized a lot of tourists speak English, not Portuguese. Then he told himself, I agree, I did not come from a family where they could take me to an international school, but I'm now responsible for either losing this work or getting it. You know, if he had blamed his parents saying, oh, they were not rich, they did not send me, he would have said nothing. But the moment he took responsibility for his lack of getting those jobs, he went to the internet. He showed me the phone and was able to Google and found there is a software that helps Portuguese speakers to learn how to speak English. He started using it. And because the person teaching English is an English person, his accent is not as bad as mine. They speak good English, all learned not from a school, but from the software. Can you see the power of stopping to blame anyone? As long as you are saying, my parents took me to a bad school, no wonder I speak the English I speak. Your problem is not your parents. Your problem is not the Meru speaking English teacher who taught you. Is that you have decided to blame them. If you start blaming your English on yourself, you will go to the software and you learn how to speak English properly. Am I communicating? What are the many other things you are not improving on? Because you are holding somebody responsible. Hold your wife responsible. So I would have been a rich man if it were not my wife. The moment you say that, you will never work on it. See, you have a revelation, isn't it? Yeah. If only I had a better husband. Now, once you say that, you will never improve. The moment you say, but what can I do about it? I have a difficult husband. That's not the subject anymore. With a difficult husband, how can I work to improve myself and him and us, despite him being difficult? The moment you now start blaming yourself, and there's something I can do, why come I'm not doing it? You continue like a frog making noise in the house, but it does not stop you drinking water. Ever heard the Kikuyu saying, in your mind. So call him, don't call him by name. In your mind, call him a frog. So continue drinking the water. Because you blame yourself for being thirsty, and the water is there. So what are the issues that you are not improving in your workplace, in your own home? Because there is somebody to blame. I always tell my mentees, there is nobody, the moment I know what he has found out somebody to blame, I give up on him. I know you will never improve. You can never improve the moment you don't blame yourself. The moment you find yourself to blame, you start working on it. And you'll discover you'll be miles ahead despite the frogs around you. Is it your mother? Is it your children? Who are you blaming? Is it your supervisor at work? So please, desist from finding somebody to blame. Start blaming. And the moment you blame yourself, you don't stay there. What can I do with it? What is it I can do to work within the circumstances if I cannot remove myself out of the circumstances? To work within the circumstances and still progress to my vision and my calling. Thirdly, we are talking about things that sabotage you in leading yourself to a better place. Thirdly, is becoming an optimist. I know this confuses you a little, but it's because all books keep supporting you. Be an optimist. But who is an optimist? An optimist is somebody who is naive. He always thinks everything is going well. And the trouble with an optimist, the real problem with an optimist, because he never can see anything going wrong. Number one, he never prepares for anything going wrong. When it goes wrong, you have to take him to Madare. No, here what is the place called? You have to take him to a mental hospital. He's traumatized. He never imagined it can happen. It has happened. He can't sleep. He is confused. You have to take him to a psychiatrist. And his weakness is being an optimist. Because an optimist can never imagine anything can go wrong. Number two problem on an optimist is that he can't again be very thankful. He does not see that for him to get the job, the principal gave him a letter of appointment, and because he's an optimist, he thought, what else would he have done? She had no alternative than to give me the job. So again, she can't be thankful because she doesn't know there are challenges. He doesn't even think about them. They think it's automatic. You start imagining that your wife had only you. Who else could you have gone to? What you are not aware is the many secret letters he got from other men before choosing to marry you. Are we together? So when you be an optimist, you go to a girl thinking, what else? Who else can she go to? And he says, can I marry you? And he says, me and you, where will you be going to? You are in a hospital for the next 3 weeks. Because you went believing she can never say no. And I'm sure sisters and girls, you know what I'm talking about, isn't it? You know, somebody you have never even thought about is forcing you, and I went through that in 1970s when we were getting married. And I still remember somebody in my office saying, tell sister so-and-so, unless he has a demon, the Lord has said, I'm marrying her. So I say, wait a minute. I thought sister so-and-so was a Christian. Why didn't you allow her to pray? But the Spirit has already talked. When I started explaining that God doesn't talk to one without talking to the other, on the phone, he now came to my office personally. And he wrote, when he couldn't find me, I left a note. Nganga, I used to be the chairman of the university CU in 1975. So it was now after we left university. He wrote, Nganga, I always had respected your Christianity. Now I know you are demon possessed. Because for him, a girl cannot say no. My friend, if you're an optimist, start revising your view. It's not even biblical to be an optimist. Because to be an optimist means you don't need God. Things must work well. You don't need. And most people who are optimists don't pray. What are you praying about? You have read Philippians chapter 4 verse 6. You know when he says, don't be anxious. Instead, make requests known to God. So if you have nothing to make you anxious, do you have a reason for prayer? No. Can an optimist be ever anxious? No. And many people, the reason they never make it in life is because that viewpoint of an optimist that makes them think everything will work their way makes them don't prepare properly. If you're going for an interview and you are sure you're going to pass, do you bother revising notes? No. You go and fail and say, hawanipendi, walinionea, they saw for me. In English. But the point is, you never prepared. What did make you not prepare? Because you are an optimist. An optimist is a person who never sees anything going wrong, because he doesn't see anything going wrong. He never has to prepare. He never has to pray and intercede. So I always tell people, if you want to go places, be aware there are barriers. And that it's normal to have barriers until heaven comes here on earth. Whatever it is, the vision God has given you, there will be many barriers stopping you going. Yeah. there. But the barriers will not stop you. They will just make your job difficult. And whatever the barrier, if you prepare in advance, yeah, this could be the barrier, then you are likely to have already devised a way of going under, over, or even through the barrier. But if you never prepare, the barrier comes. You are stuck, isn't it? This is related to another subject called being proactive. A proactive person is a person who looks at the total journey before beginning the journey. That's what you mean by being proactive. You have thought through, like now the people organizing this, must have thought through in order to prepare a program. And then they must have assumed there's a possibility Nganga might not make it on time. If he doesn't make it on time, what shall we do? But if you assume Nganga must arrive on time and he's coming from Nairobi, when he doesn't come, what do you do? And you are frantic, you can't even think. A person with an optimist never prepares alternatives. Because after all, things must go. And you know, it can be quite a problem. So you need to come to where you always, anyway, let me go to the next one. Some people are not optimists. They are, what are they? Pessimists. Who is a pessimist? A pessimist is a person who never thinks anything going right. At all. Everything, never. For me, nothing works. Well, 3 problems of a pessimist. Number 1, it means they don't trust in God. Because you see, if there is a God, why must everything work out? Wrong. It's a sign you don't really trust in God. Because if you trust in God, you know there are barriers, but there is a prayer you can pray to God, isn't it? And that will be something very, very important for you to deal with. Number 2, if you are a pessimist and assume everything is going to go badly, it kills your motivation to go places. How do you apply? And you know the way the principal looked at you last time, she doesn't seem to like you. Therefore, why bother to apply for that vacancy? I can't get promotion. Can you see how bad a pessimist can be? There's nothing they can apply for. They stay on one job, never improving, because they believe they can never pass. Some have, since they joined the job, they have worked themselves, they have added more extra competencies, whatever, but they're still sticking with the 20,000 shilling salary, and yet they can move to a place of getting 40. But if I apply, I'll fail. Who told you? And even if you fail an interview, what's that bad? Does that kill you? Can you see how dangerous it is to be a pessimist? So, and the worst of those things I'm saying about being a pessimist is you suffer in advance. Yeah? You know, a pessimist has a toothache. I saw my uncle had a toothache. It became cancer, and he died within 3 weeks. I'm dying. You know, once you start being a pessimist, will you even go to hospital? You don't want the doctor to tell you you have cancer. The way to prevent it is by not going. Is that foolishness? That's what it means to be a pessimist. You assume you have a problem before you have a problem. Then after suffering for 3 weeks, your wife persuades you until you finally go to the doctor, only for the doctor to discover it was just a jigger. Now, but you have suffered for 3 weeks. So you can never, if you are leading yourself to places, you will be sabotaged by your pessimism. Are we together? So my recommendation is that you become a realist. Don't be an optimist. Don't be a pessimist. What's a realist? A realist is a person who refuses, despite his personality being an optimist or his personality being a pessimist, he forces himself to look at the item from both angles. Initially start by saying, I'm going for this interview. Given my CV, given my good dressing, I am certainly going to get it. That thinking is an optimist. Then number 2, given the fact I'm not the only one applying, given the fact that people are coming whom I don't know, there is a possibility I will not get the job. A realist looks at both and says, I'm going ahead and ready for whichever results come out. Am I communicating? Can you see why a realist will progress places? Because there's nothing to stop him applying. I mean, he is already ready for whatever turns out. Because he thought about it in advance and is ready for it. If it happens, so it might out to be cancer, it could be a jigger, I don't know. If it's a cancer, at least it will be stage 1, and here it can be healed. The earlier I go, the better. If it's a jigger, it will be removed. Am I communicating?